average family. Me, my wife Mira, and our little son Anton. We work, bring up our child. By the way, he's already 8, and we live in an apartment which we inherited from Mira's mom. Don't think this story is gonna be about that this apartment is awful and damned. Nope, this story is about the other things. We lived happily ever after, didn't touch anyone, but at some point everything started to change drastically. Why? What is it related to? I can't say that, because I don't know it either, but it happened because of what had been actually happening in our life. I just might have lost the reason for living and sanity. I was just afraid of any dark corner. I was scared of staying alone. Moreover, I was afraid of sleeping in the darkness. It all perhaps started when I decided to make repairs in the nursery, and basically, in the apartment in general. Well, you know, where the old woman lived, even the smell in the apartment was saturated with savok. In general, we decided to start with the child's room since all the best goes to children. There is the only child in our family, and it was difficult enough to get him, so to speak. My wife had some health concerns, but everything was alright in the end, and our child was born. Mira adored him, needless to say. I did as well. It took about a month. We hung new wallpaper, bought some furniture, a bed, a table, some cabinets. Everything turned out to be quite good, but in a week our son got sick. He had temperature, he got a cough, a runny nose, etc. Well, we thought that it had to be just a common cold. It was almost winter. He might have run at school and then got outside, and as a result he came down with a cold. But then I figured out it was something different. The temperature wasn't that high. We treated him with honey, tea, and lemon. Well, we went old school and opted for some compresses. That's what Mira was doing. And what was I doing? I was working and maintaining our family. In one evening, 3 days after the onset of the cold, I came home from work, undressed. My wife cobbled together something tasty in the kitchen, and I went to my son's room. He was playing on his mom's phone, watching something on YouTube, some scary stories about cats, hippos. Everything seemed to be fine. I took his temperature, and he had 36.6. How are you feeling, son? I asked.
I'm better, Dad.
He smiled. I didn't even suspect that today, at night, a really hideous story would start. It was actually more terrifying what he was watching on the phone, but at that moment I felt good and calm. Our home smelled with coziness, idle, and delicious dinner, but then it all disappeared. It was gone from my head that night when Anton suddenly called his mom at 3 a.m. He was just burning. The temperature was 40 degrees or even more. Mira woke me up suddenly and I, being in a panic, started calling an ambulance. Anton was barely moving. I didn't see him like this before, and you know what? Mira didn't pay attention to that, but I did. He was so pale, and it got me thinking that when a person has a high temperature, his skin shouldn't be as pale as death. I got interrupted by a doorbell and someone's knock on the door. I took the child and ran downstairs to the ambulance. While I was running downstairs, my son told me that,
Daddy, there's someone under my bed.
I didn't pay much attention to that in the beginning because I was worried about his temperature and not about his fantasies. So, we put him in the ambulance. Mira jumped in the ambulance car as well. The door closed and the ambulance went away. Well, I stood for a while, smoked, and wandered back home. At home, already lying in bed, I recalled how the doctors were shocked with the pale skin of my son and those words that someone was under the bed. I couldn't fall asleep. All that crap was just filling my head. He got enough of those horror stories on the internet, and then he seems to see someone knocking on his window, someone being under the bed. And you know what? 10 minutes later, I was already climbing under his bed in search of something that could be there. But I found nothing, apart from a good layer of dust and a few candy wrappers. Well, now I got calm. I thought to myself and went to my room. I tossed and turned in my bed for a while and fell asleep. In the morning, I was woken up with a call from my wife. Hey, Mira, how are you there?
You'll be shocked.
What do you mean? What happened? I hopped out of the bed.
Calm down. Anton is fine. There's no temperature. Everything is fine. As if nothing had happened. The doctors are shocked. They haven't faced it before.
Phew, you scared me. Are you going home now?
Yes, we're gonna take a taxi and we'll get home soon. Can you heat up something to eat, please? I'm hungry as a bear and Anton is too.
All right.
We'll get home in 15 minutes.
I got off. What the hell is going on? Well, everything is fine. Why am I worrying so much? I went to the kitchen, heated up a meal, lit a cigarette, and started waiting for my wife and son. So, as she told, in 15 minutes the entrance door opened. I ran straight away to the hallway and hugged my family. Mira started telling me that it was kind of a miracle, but I didn't wake up yet and didn't pay lots of attention to what was happening. Having breakfast, I got ready for work and basically spent the whole day there. I'm not going to tell what I was doing there, as the story isn't about that. In the evening, almost late at night, I felt tired when I got home. My wife met me saying,
Anton feels bad again.
"What?" But everything was fine, I said it being upset. "Something is wrong with him." She started crying. Through her tears, she said,
He got pale again, and he's not hot anymore, but he's cold. Literally, he's completely cold. He barely can walk. He says that he's feeling weak. He's barely talking and repeating all the time that there's someone under his bed. I've checked. There's nobody.
"I've checked it as well and haven't found anyone," I thought to myself. I entered the room. Mira followed me. "Hey, son. How are you?" My wife was calling an ambulance again.
Daddy, there's someone under the bed.
He said it in that voice as if he had 5 minutes left to live. There is no one there, but who should be there?
I don't know. There's something terrible. I've seen only a hand sticking out from under the bed.
I looked again. "Son, there's nobody here."
There is.
Crying, the child started proving that to me. "Tell me better how you're feeling." I touched his forehead with my lips. He seemed to have a normal body temperature.
You and Mom have come in and I got better. Dad, don't leave me. Stay overnight with me, please.
"Sure, I'll stay. Where will I go?" 10 minutes later, the ambulance arrived. Mira told what's what and that his condition is changing every hour. Sometimes it sucks, sometimes it's good, and how the fuck to understand how to deal with it and why it's happening. A doctor examined him from head to toe. He felt something there, measured something there. I didn't fucking understand what he was checking there. The point was that he said everything was fine. The body worked in its usual mode and there were no disruptions. My surprise had no limit. The doctor took all his stuff and went away. I took a shower and got back to my son's room. I will stay overnight here and Mira will stay in our room. I sat down comfortably on a chair next to the kid's bed, and after a hard work day, I hit the sack while Anton was already asleep. I woke up due to some strange rustling in Anton's bed, and then my heart was in my throat and started beating like crazy. Under the bed, it had a clear, pale silhouette, and it was reaching out to my son from under the bed. What? The horror was so strong that I could barely move. I sat on the armchair and was staring at how something was trying to reach out to my son from under the bed. Now I'll try somehow to describe this crap that was under the bed. The face wasn't really seen well, since it was dark in the room, and under the bed it was almost impossible to discern something. But looking closely, I managed to distinguish some details. This arm was twice as long as a human, and thin as if there were no muscles at all, and it was white by itself. And suddenly it turned to me. I was about to shit because of fear. By the way, Anton was sleeping all that time. So the face, yeah, it was as if it had a mask put on, but it was quite seen that it wasn't a mask. It was its face. It stared at me and did not express any emotions. I still kept sitting, trapped by fear, looking at his bottomless, black eyes. I felt weak, you know? It's like a condition when you're recovering from anesthesia. Everything begins to blur before your eyes. Gathering the last strength, I pulled myself together when at that very moment when I saw that this thing clutched my son and was trying to drag my son under the bed, my brain got a signal that it could end up badly. I jumped out of the armchair, grasped Anton, and started pulling him towards myself. He woke up because of it and started to cry. Mira woke up as well and ran into the room. Having seen that picture, she passed out and crashed to the floor. I got distracted looking at her and damn, what happened next has remained imprinted on my memory. The son slipped out of my hand, and the next thing I saw was how the beast dragged him under the bed, and from under the bed, a bloody fountain, pieces of pajamas, skin, organs of my son flew at me. I got sick. I looked under the bed. Except for the bloody mess, there was nothing else. No creatures. Nothing. I was lying in the vomit, blood, and cried, realizing that I no longer had a son. Then Mira began to come round and I immediately crawled up to her. She got shocked with what she had just seen, but she didn't immediately understand what had happened. Mira, he isn't there, under the bed, anymore. What was it?
I don't know.
She got on her feet and silently wandered to the kitchen. Then I heard some noise out of the kitchen. I got up and went limping. She was lying on the floor with a knife in her neck. She stabbed herself. Or she didn't. I was just frozen. Started hitting my cheeks, hoping that it was merely a bad fucking dream. But no, it wasn't a dream. I felt her blood on my hands and under my feet. Damn, the window was open. I rushed to it. Something long and pale was drifting away from our house. Now I understand for sure that this was not a dream. I have nothing to tell more. The police arrived, started the investigation, wrote something down, and then they were dragging me from one department to another for 2 months. But it didn't work out. The police dropped the case. It might still be lying, covered with dust, somewhere in the prosecutor's office. And I cannot live here, and I won't. I've thought of committing suicide. What should I live for after all what I've gone through? And I didn't do it, you know? It's scary to die. I will look for an apartment and try to start living from scratch.